Hello and welcome to our game on this lovely Wednesday morning, and what a preview show we have coming up in association with La Hollanda. Big bumper All-Ireland final preview coming up, and back due to popular demand, the great Pat Ryan. Pat, how are we doing?
Tom Bernie, all good in yourself?
A lot has changed since we spoke last, Pat.
A lot has changed. A lot has changed. I don't think either of us predicted what's coming up this week. It's I don't know about you. Yes, it's a tough week for me. It's like when Gary Neville was asked about Liverpool and City winning the final, the Premier League. He said it's like asking which one of you want to find out with your wife. So I don't know who I want to win. I want both of them to lose if that's possible. But no, I want to listen. The two best teams in Ireland are in the final, obviously, and I just hope it's a great game.
I often said, when we weren't involved in a county final or something like that, and it was particularly raw, like the best outcome is. And joking, obviously, the best outcome is if a bomb is landed on the site around 2 o'clock around throwing time. But
Rich English said the same thing to me this week in training, basically word for word.
Oh yeah, scarcity, yeah. Cornerbacks are usually kindred spirits, to be honest with you, in that kind of regard. But we get to Limerick in a second, Pat. You've been doing a bit abroad since we spoke last as well. You were poking ball out in San Fran, or where were you?
Yeah, I was in Tipp, San Fran. I had to come home a few unforeseen circumstances, but I had to come home for a bit there. I was there for the last month, and unbelievably enjoyable. You know, it's something that you could do a whole show on, Bernie, to be honest, with different people that have had experiences playing abroad in America or other places. I've been lucky enough since 2016. I played in 3 different spots in the US, and I couldn't recommend it enough. It's absolutely incredible. You get very well looked after. Do you know what I mean? Lovely people. Obviously, all expats that are there, you know, trying to keep the game alive, because they're living over there in different things, and then different lads you're over with during the summer. Like I was playing with lads from Clare, from Ballyhale and Kilkenny, do you know what I mean? From Middleton and Cork, from Tipperary and Tipperary, you know, loads of lads, and we're a very good team. And it's just so enjoyable, and it's such a part of the game that if a young guy gets half a chance, I think they should jump at it. Really is. I don't know if you ever got to do it.
No, I never did it, and to be honest with you, I'd say it's deadly when you go play challenge games, and there's all sorts of lads that you hurl against abroad. Because I even thinking back to like been in UL for 4 years, and you go and play Templeberry, or you go and play Pursley, or you go and play whoever, and you always know a lad, or you always know a few lads, no matter where you go. So you know, when you meet a lad in the States, and it's a bit, you're cutting the shit out of each 100%. Other when you're playing a challenge game, and then you're, you know, cutting the shit out of each other with jokes after the game, or stuff that happened God knows how many years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And you meet, and you know, the standard of hurling is quite high. You know, I can tell you that now. Shut up. It's not floating around. It's kind of like really tough opposition. Really hard games, low scoring, tight games. In San Francisco, the weather can kind of makes it like that, because the wind can be quite heavy out in Treasure Island. So it's so incredible. And like that, you're training every week. You know, you're training twice a week, every Tuesday, Thursday, like you're at club at home. And it's just, so you're not if you're gone for a couple of weeks or for a month or two, you're not coming back without doing any hurling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've been training, and you've been playing matches. Even the weekend we didn't have a match, we played 15 and 15, because there's 2 teams. It's an intermediate team and a senior team out there. So you've enough numbers to play 15 and 15 if you've no games. So look, I couldn't recommend it enough. I really could. I think it's quite obvious that I enjoy it, you know, and I love the States anyway, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm going to bring John Myler in a second, but just before that, we have to chat to you a bit about Limerick, and obviously, you know, been knocked out of championships so early. I presume it came, you know, to you as much of a surprise as anybody else, especially when Dublin went down to 14. And what's the post-mortem been like in the week since?
Look, to be honest, when you go back to last year, and the post-mortem was rightfully so. You know, it was like, you know, this run 4 Irelands in a row, it was always going to end, and there was just, you know, it's not that it didn't sting last year losing to Cork. It did, but it was almost like, you know, it's going to happen, and there's no real anger in it. That I think this year it's very different. You know, I feel that as Limerick people and the players, and I'm guaranteed to set up themselves, they'd be incredibly pissed off, you know, and would feel that they'd let themselves down, and that's just the truth. Like, you know, if I was inside, I'd feel the very same way. And as supporters, even, you feel like that, a little bit of anger. You know, I don't know if that feels wrong to say, but it's, you know, and we'd love an opportunity as a county to have put the run from last year right. That, you know, even when we did lose last year, there was almost a sense of anticipation and excitement among fans very quickly after the Ireland semi-final. You know, we'll be back, you know, kind of, we'll come back next year and we'll get a chance to avenge this, and, you know, it'll be, next year will be huge. You know, we'll have hunger and everything. And it just didn't pan out like that. You know, we played 12 competitive games this year, league and championship. We only won 4. You know, 2 in the league, 2 in the championship. That's just not good enough. So we can't have any complaints and say that we should be in the top, should have been in the top 4. But I think we still have a really, really good team and a really good panel that some things have to change in terms of, be it how we're going about playing the game compared to 2023, 2024. Doesn't mean it's going to work in 2026. You know, everything evolves all the time and things change. We saw that with Kilkenny, the great Kilkenny teams, and loads of different teams. Like, you know, Brian Cody was winning All Ireland. The next thing, Cork came on in 2004-5, and we're playing a different game. And Brian Cody had to adapt. You know, he had to get wing forwards, start dropping that bit deeper in 2006, etc. and on. And we could go through all the last 20 years, myself and yourself now, and look how we can't go playing the same system that we played the last 2 years being unsuccessful just because the 2 years before that were successful. We have to change something up. You know, I actually mentioned to you at the start of the year, but we scored no goal in the Ireland semi-final last year. That hopefully that will be something that we could target this year. We got to Cork and we scored no goal against Dublin again. You know, so that's 2 years on the bounce. And then as a result, we watched the semi-finals. Cork scored 7, Tipp scored 4. So it's just like I said, it's a little bit of anger and frustration, just thinking that, we feel like we should be there, but we've no complaints. We weren't the best 4 teams in Ireland this year, and hopefully, I still think Limerick are good enough to win that Ireland.
Okay, Pat, you might just exit and come back in there with some questions about the audio. Maybe it's my end, but you might just jump out and come back in, and I'll bring John Myler in here. It could be a problem on my end, but we'll see. We might just bring John in here. John, how are you doing?
How are you? All good in
Good.
Ireland, yeah. Good.
All good. You're a happy man. I can tell by it. There's a nice bit of tension in you as well, but a good type of tension. And these the games you want to be involved in.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, look. It's good listening to Pat there for the last few minutes. But like Sundays where you want to be involved, every player wants to be there. Every GA player wants to be there. Few points he made there, I don't agree with his interpretation of the US about playing hurling in the US. He should be playing hurling here in Ireland, you know what I mean? But that's for another discussion. But no, I think one of the problems this year with Limerick was they played Cork in the Gaelic rounds in the first game in the Munster Championship, and they won by 15 points. And I remember you saying to me the following week, I think it was, did you leave early? And that, the whole Cork crowd were going up Limerick Ennis Road 10 minutes before the end of the game, like thinking, Jesus, this is terrible. And maybe Cork learned an awful lot out of that game, and Limerick probably thought, it was probably another All-Ireland, we'll stroll through this. And, it didn't happen that way. It didn't turn out that way.
Was that the best thing that happened to this Cork team in this year, John, when you think about it? Like, well, sometimes I think they kick up the arse like that.
Yeah, I think Cork learned an awful lot that day, and I was just looking at 1 or 2 points there during the week where Cork didn't bother doing a video review. They just put up the stats in graph form, and obviously it was the number of passes, the number of scores, everything. Limerick just outperformed the Cork hurlers in every area, in tackles, in shots, in points, in goals, in everything. And I think that was highlighted to the Cork players, and either we do something about it or else, we'll be gone. And I think Cork learned an awful lot. As much, and I'll make this point to you later, Michael, as much as I think Tipperary learned an awful lot from the second game here in the park, the Munster Championship game against Cork in the park here, they learned an awful lot of that about, Tipperary started the game with all 15 players, fighting with the Cork players. And I think they went home that day and said, look, if we play hurling, we're 10 times better than this. And I think, they went on after that game, then they went to play Clare in Ennis, and they were really, really good. They've improved incrementally over the last number of weeks. few points that Pat was making while I was listening to him there. I don't agree with you, Pat, about the US. And I think fellas should be staying here in Ireland playing hurling, not going off on the piss in Chicago and Boston and San Francisco.
I'd say he was doing a bit of hurling, and I'd say you never went, John, by the sounds of things.
My father, Lord have mercy on him, I was asked to go to the States in 77. I was in college, finished my third year chemistry degree, and they wanted me to go to San Francisco and Boston to play hurling and play football. And I said, yeah. And my dad said, you ain't going nowhere, son. And that's it. And Lord have mercy on him, he wouldn't let me go because, we'd a farm and a pub and that, and I had to work for the summer and all that.
But so you had to drink at home instead of drinking in America?
Yeah, I was drinking that. I was drinking Sunday night down in Cedars Hotel in Rosslare. That's where I was, do you know what I mean? But Jesus, that was at probably 1 o'clock in the morning, Pat, when you got out from working behind the bar. But America is just, a lot of, look, don't cod me, like it's Boston, New York, it's San Francisco, they're piss ups and get together, and that's what it is really,
I tell you something, John, like one of my regrets would have been not going over. And I'm not talking about for a whole summer, but even just for a month or something like that. I think it's a great experience. I think you meet lots of lads. I think you learn things. I think you can't just always be full bore and constant. I think you need to go out, step outside the lines as well. I think you develop as a person as well.
I've been in New Zealand. I've done New Zealand for 6 weeks. I've done Australia for 6 weeks. I've done all those, Michael. I've done all those. But
did you do any training when you were there, though? We be training in America. You weren't training.
I know what training is. You turn up at 7:30. Well, lads, how are things? Then how are things back home? Yeah, great. Yeah, we'll have a puck around and then we'll go home at 8:30. Oh, no, we'll go to Murphy's Bar in the Bronx or whatever. I know that.
I tell you, John, where I was this summer, John, we had the Offaly under-20 coach for the last 2 years training us. A young up-and-coming coach, Tony D. So I tell you now, look, everything is different. Obviously, you spoke to lads that came home that had a sore head probably after a good few weeks of being there. But look, it's a lot of younger guys do enjoy it. No, you're right in some ways. It is.
And there are a lot of fellas, and I'm meeting one of them tonight actually at a down in the park here tonight. Brendan Searles. Brendan Searles was one of the best Cork underage hurlers and footballers at 18, early 80s, and he went to San Francisco. No, he's a successful businessman now, and he's 3 businesses, and he comes home now for 2 months in the summer. But Jesus, like Searles would have been some hurler and footballer for Cork. And then you'll hear him tonight. And John, I played hurling over in New York and San Francisco, Boston. Like, come on, give me a break.
In fairness, now, even in America now, Pat says there about Tony Gleeson being out there. Like, I know that they even fly families out with a manager out for the summer to look after a team, and that's not to organise bonding sessions, John. I'd say there's a bit more than that. I'd say it's to do.
I never got the phone call. So well, maybe no good.
Yeah,
I'm no good here.
Your anti kind of US bias might go against you, I'd say, in that regard.
Donald might give me a ring and say to me, "Come on over, John, and we'll have a game of golf first, and then we'll go do a bit of hurling."
Would you play a game of golf with him?
With Donald, I'd be the first fella on the tee box with him. I'd be the first fella on the tee box with him. I'd be the first fella on the tee box with him. Yeah, and I've been in these golf courses and that up in and you've one up in Clare. Oh shit, I can't think of the name, but no. Doombeg, absolutely beautiful. I didn't get as far as the gate, like he wasn't around at the time, and I've gone for a swim up there. It's absolutely beautiful in Doombeg. And years ago when myself and my wife were doing a bit of travelling in Florida, we would have played. I'm not sure where the Donald's golf courses at the time, but we would have played some of the golf courses in Florida. Absolutely, yeah. I'd be the first man. Donald, if you want to,
he won't go to play Hurling. He goes to play golf.
Yeah, but sure, he was all over. He was all over the FIFA World Club. He was standing on the podium with all the Chelsea players on Sunday night there. Fantastic, brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting to say the least. I'm wondering now between the two number one, Pat, have you ever apologised to John over 2018? And number 2, John, have you ever forgiven Pat over 2018?
I'll let him go first.
But look, that was obviously a special day for us in Limerick. So it's one, and for me, it gets brought up a bit sometimes. When I meet people in Limerick, they do reference that game. It was a really hard game, and John's Cork team were incredibly close and a very hard team to play against. I tell you, there was no one saying about that Cork team that they lacked a bit of steel, and I know that for a fact from playing against them. We drew below in the park with them, and obviously the semi-final was a draw, went extra time, and we were lucky to go over the line. One of my abiding memories of John is coming into the dressing room after, and he had a lovely pair of suit shoes on and good trousers. I was thinking it was a real throwback to the older style management of dressing up properly on.
We were only chatting about that recently, John. Like yourself, Babs. I can't think of too many more. In fairness, you always had the good stuff. You were like Premiership dressed almost.
That's bullshit. I have said this before. I've said this before, Michael, and I absolutely hate tracksuits, right? I hate tracksuit bottoms. And this thing of fellas in tracksuit bottoms with the socks outside the tracksuit bottom is terrible. It looks terrible. I always wore a black trouser because when David was in the UK, he had a deal with Adidas and he used to throw Adidas pants at me. So
okay.
And I still have them. If you want me to, I'll still show you the pair of shoes and pants. But like, look, I just always wore it. Like, do you know what I mean? Now I wear a pair of shorts and that if I'm on the line. But my inter-county days are over. But like, look, We'll get over 2018 now, please God, if we win on Sunday, and that'll put all that to bed, and I can go away happy then.
Can I just ask you about that as well? Like, from someone who's been there and you've been involved with, various Cork teams through those years, and particularly when you were a manager, what would it mean to you if Cork get over the line on Sunday?
It would mean everything, you know what I mean? That I'm here 51 years now. I came to college in 74 and I'm still here, and my kids are pure Cork, David, Sarah, you know what I mean? So I've that really in my blood for the last 50 years here, and it's a fantastic county to be in. Everything here is about, sport, and they follow their hurlers, they follow their footballers, soccer players, rugby. Everything here in Cork is tremendous from that point of view.
And just knowing all the lads as well, John, and knowing what it means to them. So you probably as emotional as anybody, because you know what it would mean to them to get over the line.
Yeah, look, I introduced a few of them there, as Pat was saying there, about 2018, like Downey. We brought Downey in 19, to Mark Garrod, Hegarty, and Sean O'Donoghue was brought in, Pat Collins was brought in, Decky Dalton was a goalkeeper, and we put him into wing forward, and, one or two things. So I'm closer to those than I would be to the fellas, like the later fellas, like I know Brian Hayes well enough in the bars, but Connolly and Barrett, I wouldn't know those two guys, but they've been in, and like Ryan has brought those couple of lads in the last couple of years. So look, you get an attachment to guys who you personally have introduced, like the Roaches and that as well. So there's an emotional attachment. Tim O'Mahony, as well, and we brought those in 18 and 19. So look, there's a kind of an emotional attachment,
Just to you, Pat, is there any part of you that thinks if Cork get over the line on Sunday that the dam could burst over the next couple of years, and it's just a matter of get one, and maybe it could be something similar to what you did in Limerick?
I don't think so. But it's a very hard question to answer, really. You know what I mean? Because you don't know, are they good enough to win this All Ireland? They are. Are they good enough to win next year's All Ireland? Of course they are. They have a team there for the next couple of years. It's a very good age profile. Bar obviously someone, one or two guys that are probably closer to the end. But other than that, they have a great age profile. I think when Limerick were the real dominant force there, obviously from maybe even 2000. When they've done 4 in a row, and when that's happened before, there was. Over the years, there's often been a few years in where teams, when Kilkenny kind of did stop in 15, even though that was kind of a different team, you had 3 winners in 3 years. Tipp have become very strong this year. So, and I'd be hoping Limerick will be back in the mix next year. And I think there's a lot of teams very strong. So I think if Cork win this one, they have to worry about winning this one first. I don't think they'll be worried about winning anymore, but
I looked at, just before the last, when you said to me, Michael, about coming on, I actually went and studied the Munster under 20 championship for the last few years, for the last 3 or 4 years. And there's Cork and Tipp there. There's a lot of young players there. Darren McCarthy, and O'Donoghue and that have come out of Tipp. Tipp, Evan Maguire now will be a very good minor there in the last year or two. But Cork have been thereabouts, and Barry Walsh from Killa was probably the standout Cork player in under 20 this year. You've Ben Cunningham and Mullins, who haven't really developed over the last year, would say, with the Cork panel. Now Cunningham has had hamstring problems, and Mullins will have I suppose a hard year now this year in the championship here in Cork with Glen Rovers, and see how he performs with Hoggie and the Downies. So definitely there are numbers here in terms of hurlers, but it's getting the transfer from under 20 to senior, like Darren McCarthy and Oisin O'Donoghue have done that really well here with Tipperary. So look, it's about making the jump from minor under 20 to senior, and that's extremely difficult.
Yeah, it's definitely not an easy thing. You throw Sam O'Farrell into the mix as well, and probably a couple more there as well. Pat, what of your is it sickening enough with your relations in Tipperary these weeks?
It's tough, I tell you. There's a lot of I told you before about cousins I have from different places and over in London that are living over there now. Like, they were telling me at the start of the year that Tip are back and they were going to do this and do that, and I didn't believe them, and now they're laughing at me. But yeah, a lot of requests for tickets now, as you might imagine, from aunts, uncles, cousins, different things. But it is crazy, you know what I mean? And there's a fierce buzz from that side of the family, and even there's a family wedding on this week, so there's aunts and uncles home from America and England and different things, and all looking for tickets. Like anywhere else, sure, I'd imagine John is blowing Cork. I'd imagine Cork must be insane with ticket demand.
Yeah, and playing the 18th in Cove yesterday, a fella sitting on the 12th, and he said, "Well, how are we fixed?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, we'll get over it over if you don't mind that. He said, "What about the tickets? Have you 2 tickets in your back pocket there?" Like, it's just crazy here.
Yeah. You'll have an awful lot of Cork fans who are at the semi-final. There could be 10, 15, 20,000 that might make the final just because the way allocation goes, and that's tough. That's really tough going, but there's
a tradition here, Pat, that people really go to the semi-final because they won't get tickets, they won't make the final, you know what I mean? So because of again, the price, the ticket is €100, and they're just scarce here, and that's it. And it's like, if you look at it, it's becoming more and more of a kind of a corporate day, where corporates take over and they get more tickets than supporters in some cases. But look, it's extremely difficult to find tickets here, I'll tell you that.
Just on that point, and I throw this to the two of you, go to you first, Pat. Is enough made of All Ireland final day or All Ireland final week? Should there be more going on? Even I used to love and I was only up at it once, but I used to love when the Sevens was on in Kilmacud on that weekend. I remember being out one Saturday with Burr, and it was just a great hum around the place and chatting about the matches, and you kind of roll into the Sunday then. Is there, there's no minor game on beforehand now? The Jubilee teams are paraded, Jesus, it could be an hour and a half before the senior game even starts. I honestly don't think we're maximising the whole thing. I think there should be a lot more going on. I'll put it to you that way.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I was talking to a friend of mine who was talking to a guy that works for Crow Park yesterday and talking about the NFL that's coming in a couple of months. And I have no interest in NFL now, really, like that. But he was telling this guy that from the Wednesday of that weekend that the NFL is coming, obviously the Americans, there's stuff on all week promoting that. But this week now, there's absolutely nothing on. For the All Ireland. This guy was above in Crow Park. He told me he wouldn't know there was an All Ireland final this week above in Crow Park. There's absolutely nothing going on. To me, whatever about even midweek, because it's it's an amateur association. Like Saturday should be completely filled up. Why can't Masters teams be on telly Saturday evening? Guys who've maybe played for Cork and Tipp, and televise some of that along with maybe some of the club teams from there, because club players want to go up. Why can't the county champions from Tipp and Cork play each other above on a Saturday, and and just kind of create this buzz and have it on telly, because not everyone's going to be above around Dublin. And any idea you can come up with, I think to be great. I'd love to see more, because I'll be at home Saturday and I'd love to see more build up to the match. Obviously, you've up for the match, but that's on late. That's on. Wouldn't it be great to have some sort of a game to watch and more?
I used to love the Kilmacud Sevens on a Saturday morning, and you'd be in Kilmacud probably 9:30, 10 o'clock, and you mosey around and you'd see Toomey Vara, you'd see the Galway clubs, you'd see Dublin clubs, Nafina and those, and you just watch and see, look, how is Dublin hurling going, how is Tipp? I know it's only 7 aside, but Jesus, I used to love Kilmacud, and that whole promotion of it. I used to love the minor match at 1:30 then as well, on a Sunday, and you know, we note, have you got a program there handy, and we say who's number 11, who's number 6, and then you'd kind of say, you know, is he going to make it with Tipperary or with Cork or with Kilkenny in the next few years? And you know, oh Jesus, I picked him out 3 years ago. Like, look, I've seen Evan Maguire play with Tipp in the last couple of years. I think he's an excellent player. So you'd kind of watch out for him now on Sunday and see, is he playing, or is Mark O'Brien from Cork here, from Douglas, playing with Cork in the minor final? And as you said, the Masters, and as you said there, the promotion. They're, you know, look, we're black and blue in the face saying about promotion and promoting hurling. That's why I was giving out to you about going to America. We don't need that. That's not promoting hurling here in Ireland.
Trying to grow the game, John. Right. But John, like, you know, my first ever final that I was ever at, I was 10 years of age, was in 2005. Funny enough, when Cork last won, because my brother Micheál was playing on the minor team with Limerick. Yeah. You know, so I wouldn't have got tickets to that. Only for the minor game, you know what I mean? And I was at the minor game to see Limerick in a minor final. It had been their first final in over 20 years. And, you know, even what you're saying then, speaking about hurlers, like, I saw Joe Canning that day score like 1-5 or 1-8 or whatever he got. He went to town. He was brilliant, and Galway won. Yeah. And, you know, I saw him that day. I was actually, I remember the seat I was in even, you know, because I was at the minor game. And I remember, and he got I was down near the lower end of the Hoggie and right down near the bit behind the goals. And Joe caught a ball and buried it in the back of the net. And I remember thinking, wow, this fella's class, like, you know. And obviously we know it came on to Joe, and he was going for 3 in a row the following year in 2006, and I was at that as well. And there was almost as big as a buzz in 2006 when Joe was going for 3 in a row minor All-Irelands as there was of the senior final. And
there was a huge buzz for that, and Tipp were unbelievable the same then. It was Sheedy's team that went on to do everything at senior level then as well.
It was. Tipp had an unbelievable team. Noel McGrath was wing back. He was under 16. In that final, I remember Owen Kelly was doing the water. I remember because Owen Kelly was probably the best hurler in Ireland at the time in 2006. He actually had that year against Limerick in the senior. He'd scored 14 points. I remember at 9 from play. I remember thinking, wow, this fella. And I remember watching him doing water for the minor that day, and thinking, like, geez, how cool is that? Owen Kelly's doing water for the Tipp minor team. Yeah. You know, and they beat Galway. And that Tipp team went on and they won. They won the following year as well, I think, and you know, look at all the players that came out of that as well, and fellas got to see him. So I agree with John completely. Like, I think I missed him. Now I understand people are making great points about the minor final this year in Thurles and other ones, that it's a great occasion and this and that. I do understand that, but I think there's an awful lot to be said about both sides. Even if the final or the semi-finals run with the semi-finals or something, maybe that's a happy medium, but it's.
Or the final was on with one of the semi-finals or something like that. When it's less likely to be sold out. But like, we're definitely missing a trick there. I don't want to see a band playing on the pitch at 1:30 or 1:45 or 2 o'clock. I want to see hurling going on.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Those bands started with the rugby crowd in Thomond Park. I think they're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. They make no sense. There was a fellow up in Limerick, or a band up in Limerick. I can't think of his name now. He was playing before the Limerick Cork match.
I think they're fairly well known too. Yeah, Gavin James. Yeah. And he had a podium or a stand in front of the main stand, and I say he was singing to about 20 or 30 people because nobody was listening to him. You know, to be honest, I'm all right. If I'm being critical, but can't we put a minor match on before it, or under 20 match or whatever, and just have it on there? And the other point I'd make too is that it's Cody's first All Ireland, I think, this year, 25 years ago, and you know, I mean, like, that should get the due recognition and due reward of those players 25 years ago, and just, you know, to highlight players like that have contributed enormously to hurling. You know, you'll get your going 2043, Pat, I think it is. 2043, Jesus, it seems like a lifetime away. It'll come along not too fast.
Probably, you'll probably wheel me out in a wheelchair or something like that. You know.
Cody actually won't be there for the Jubilee.
Yeah, I know, but it should be highlighted, Michael. Do you know what I mean? For what, you know, rather than a fella reading out like Pat Ryan, gotta go, next man. Do you know what I mean? Whatever. Guys need a bit of recognition and more deserving of what they've done for hurling.
Yeah, well, the Jubilee team should be paraded when there's about 50,000 people there, or when the whole shebang is there at half time, and a few people are gone out and there's still 60,000, and they get, because I was there for the Offaly one a couple of years ago, and like, And I just don't think it's right. I think they deserve more than that. But we've probably chatted about nearly everything apart from what's actually going to happen.
Willie O'Connor is worth his weight in gold.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And he's worth his weight in gold, and he should get recognition. You know what I mean? Sorry.
Well, I'd give him a microphone, to be honest with you.
And let him introduce the Kilkenny players and Cody.
Yeah, no, we get a bit of crack out of that.
Yeah.
Pat, just quickly looking, well, not quickly because we're going to go into it forensically, and we have a Tipp guest waiting in the background in a couple of minutes to jump in as well to throw a few cat amongst the pigeons. But do you see Tipp setting up straight up, going toe to toe with Cork, as they've tried to in recent games and as Dublin have tried to, or do you see them maybe being a bit more conservative and a bit more defensive and trying to keep themselves in the game?
I don't see him dropping a man back. No. Liam Cahill actually referenced in an interview this week, he said, I've never played a sweeper as long as I've been a manager unless another team has. So unless that's a bit of rope-a-dope, and he's actually openly saying that, and now he is going to drop someone back, I can't see it. I just can't see it. It's an awful lot to change. If you haven't set up like that once throughout the year in terms of dropping a man back, it is a lot to change. Now what they might do is, will Darren McCarthy start, will he not? I don't know. My guess is he probably will. Liam Cahill seems to really, really like him, you know what I mean? Maybe if he doesn't, right, which I think it'd be nothing wrong if he didn't. He's a young player. He hasn't been going that well, really, in the championship. He had a fantastic league. If they started a fella like Alan Tynan and played him as a third midfielder, maybe, it could happen. But I don't think you'll see an awful lot of change in terms of setup, no. I think they'll go out. I think Tipperary's big thing will be, since they've changed this year, what they're doing is they're picking out, they're going man for man on defence. They're not playing zonally on defence. They're picking a man. They're saying, Ronan Maher, you're picking up this guy. Connolly, you're picking up this guy. And this is where we're going. So I think that's where Tipp will put the eggs in their basket. And it'll be very, very interesting to see who will be sent on who. Like, will Ronan Maher be put on Brian Hayes for size?
What do you think of that? I don't think that's a good matchup for him, to be honest with you.
I wouldn't do it. I'd put him on Hoggie. I know Hoggie still moves quite well, but at the end of the day, he's very experienced, as I say. I don't want to be referencing his age all the time. I'd put him on Hoggie. I think you'll probably have Mikey Breen and Brian Hayes. I think you'll probably have Dial and Connolly on Alan Connolly. I think you'll probably have Owen Connolly up in the half forward line, maybe on Barrett. You know what I mean? Or no, sorry, you'll probably have Craig Morgan on Barrett. You'll probably have Connolly on Dalton, and you'll probably have O'Mara on Healy. That's what I think probably they'll go with, because they look to do, can we set up these guys to match up very well with each individual Cork forward? Now, it's a hard thing to do, obviously, because if Cork get on top further back the field and very good ball is going in, very, very hard to stop these Cork forwards. So, to answer your question, I don't think Tipp will have a man just drop back. I just don't see it, because they haven't done it all year.
What do you reckon, John? The last 5 times they've met in big games, including the league final this year, they've lost 4, drawn 1, beaten by an average of 10.4 points across those games that they lost. Like, is it more sensible to play a bit more conservative and keep themselves in the game? Lads, if they concede green flags early, they're in big bother. Like, if Cork rattle the net in the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, Tipp are in big trouble.
Look, I don't necessarily agree with the last line there you've just said, because they only had a goal after 15 minutes against Kilkenny last Sunday, and they still came back late, at a later on stage. But I think this Cork team are very fluid. They can play whatever way, the opposition sets up. And I think Cork are going to move. It'll be up to Cork to determine what Cork want to do, and up to Tipperary to try and prevent them, stopping them in certain areas. But it's the quality of the ball coming out of the Cork backs which Tipperary will have to look at, and the quality of the ball going into the Cork forwards, into Barrett, Connolly and Brian Hayes. And I think Tipperary will set up, I wouldn't say ultra defensive, I think they'll set up defensively not to concede early on. The longer we're in the game here, the greater the chance of us winning the game. So like what Pat was saying there about matchups, it's important, but I think that it's more important. I think that if Tipperary keep their shape, I think that's what's more important. That they're defensively structured, not to concede early on, not to concede goals to Cork. But look, that's the way it'll be.
When you're
And
tracking men like
literally-
that, Pat, it's dangerous though, isn't it? If you're going man for man, as in I'm marking Pat Ryan, then if Pat Ryan goes 70 yards over here, that's grand. He mightn't be benefiting, but somebody else is, and I'm gone from there.
Yeah, exactly. And what John said about defensive shape, when you do what Tipp are doing, you're running the risk of losing your shape with telling fellas to stay with each man. But I think, in fairness, you don't see it should technically suit. Obviously, Cork have such a good record against Tipp, as you said, Mike, but it should suit them to go man for man because Cork don't rotate their forwards. Like Brian Hayes and Connolly and Horgan very rarely play in the half forward line at any part of the time, whereas other teams they'll try and take advantage of that. Remember, like Eamon O'Shea's Tipperary team were very good at that. Cody was excellent. One stage, Shefflin would be 12. The next thing he just run into 15, almost clockwise. Dan Shannon, they were very good at that. Cork keep their 3 men inside, so Tipp should be set up to do that. When you said about them getting a goal, if I was in the Tipp camp this week, and God knows what they're showing them, I'd be showing them the goal that Robert Downey got in the All-Ireland final last year. And I'd be saying, lads, look, they went 7 points up. They started really well, but they still didn't win. I'd be showing them the first round against Clare. They went 12 points up, but lads, they still didn't win. And my point would be trying to reinforce that, lads, even if Cork do start well, which is very, very possible, we can still roll this back. You know what I mean? And we had Keith Earls in with us in 2018 one time, and he was the first person I ever heard in a sports capacity to a team speaking about negatives before a match. Whereas he said that Joe Smith used to say to them that he used to sit down in the room and he used to basically say, what if the England winger scores 2 tries in the first 5 minutes? What do we do then? And, because sometimes when you're involved with teams and you're listening to pre-match talks the week of the match, you think you're nearly going to go out and win 20-0. You're always talking about the positives and different things, but negatives can happen. Obviously, from a Tipperary point of view, you don't want that kind of start. But I think it's important to know that Cork, as much as they're billed as favourites, this Cork team is very beatable. And I don't mean that as a negative. Cork are exceptional. If Cork play well, they're a joy to watch. They're just exceptional. 7 goals in the semi-final, outrageous.
But every team is beatable, Pat, on the 50-50. And Munster Championship hurling. This is Munster Championship.
This is not billed as a 50-50. No matter how many people living in Cork like yourself want to say it's 50-50. Cork are overwhelming favourites. But the form doesn't really suggest that in certain ways. Because what I mean by that is Cork 6 games in the championship this year. They drew with Clare, they lost Limerick, then they drew with Limerick after the period of extra time, and then they won a penalty final. They beat Waterford at home, they beat 14-man Tipp at home, and they beat Dublin. Tipp's last 4 games, take out the Laois game, were all 4 knockout games. Kilkenny, Galway, Waterford, Clare. Won 4 of them. That's incredible form. You know what I mean?
But if you go further back with Tipp, what about the first round of the championship here, and what about the league final? Do they not count?
Oh, look, of course they count, and I take into much consideration the league final. That's why I'm saying Cork are, deserve to be favourites. But I'm just saying that you can't lie. The stats don't lie at the same time, where they were 7 points up in the All-Ireland final and they lost. You know what I mean? They were 12 points up against Clare, they didn't win it. They took a 16-point hammering. Tipp took a 16-point hammering against Tipp, but they had only 14 men. Cork took a 16-point hammer against Limerick, when they had all the players. There's a little bit of frailty there, and it will be there, John, until they win the All-Ireland. We had that in our club here until we won last year. I had no problem with people would say that about us. We were fit. I had no problem, because I said the day they can't say that is if we get over the line. You know what I mean? So it all comes down to this Sunday.
But Cork have addressed that, Pat. Do you know what I mean? They will have addressed that. Look, that we were 7 points up, we were 10 points up, whatever.
I don't think, John, you can address it until
there's no addressing it.
Until you lift lean.
Yeah.
No. That's the best way of addressing it.
But what I mean by addressing it is that they'll be aware of it and they'll know what to do. I think this team, Pat, have matured in terms of Connolly, Barrett, Brian Hayes. When I was involved, I didn't have those 3 players. Jesus, I'd love to have them. I was totally dependent on Hoggie for scores, and you know what I mean. You get the ball, you get it into Hoggie, and that. These guys are far more mature, and you know what I mean. I think they've adopted in a way what I call the Kevin Keegan school. If you score 4, we'll score 5, and they'll keep going. And
those 3 players you named have won at under 20 and 21 level, haven't they? So that's to me, that's a big point.
Booster, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so you have experience of winning, whereas but Cork as a whole, you know, you've lost your last couple of finals. It is a monkey on the back. Now, look, there's two sides to every coin. Cork have experience of being in the final last year. The Tip don't have. The nerves
Yes.
maybe might be as bad. You know what I mean? Your suit, you already know how we're travelling up to the match this weekend, whereas last year, you know what the suits. All that can be an added bonus to Cork. But I'll ask you the question, who's under more pressure on Sunday?
Tipperary.
John, come out with it, will ya?
Couldn't disagree more.
Stop now, John.
That's
Why?
crazy.
Because it is non-negotiable that Cork win this game on Sunday. Like
They will
you
win
cannot.
it, Michael.
But I'm saying you cannot, from a Cork point of view, defeat is unfathomable. If Cork are beaten on Sunday, it's a disaster. There's no point in saying any different.
Yes.
It is.
Yes. So that quote that you've given, disaster, has been addressed, no doubt. I'm not in the dressing room at the moment. That word has been addressed. And I think Cork players, the minute the semi-final was over against Dublin, they went away, they came back, they knew what they were about, they know what they have to do, they just have to get it across the line. I agree 100% with you there. And they will get it across the line. And that energy will drive them across the line on Sunday. I've no doubt about it.
I'm throwing a bit of blue and gold into the mix here because we have a man waiting in the background who's only been waiting to come in. We'll pop him in there. There he is, the man himself. He's even en route and he pulled in to make sure he was in the show. Shano, what's the story?
He's in San Francisco with Pat Ryan.
I'm about to play around the golf, John. I have to say that.
Where?
I'm listening.
Where are you?
I'm at Enfield, the service station. I'm on the way down to Galway to visit someone.
Yeah.
So it's not that interesting.
Go on, Shano.
I've been listening to you for the last 40 odd minutes, and I have to say it's been brilliant, lads. I'm ready to burst out through the windscreen, and I hope that's not tempting fate, by the way. But it has been absolutely brilliant listening to you. Now, to be fair to Pat there, the last few minutes, you can hear the absolute fear in his voice that Tipperary are going to win this game. He is absolutely shitting that Tipperary are going to win this game. And he's right, because I'll tell you why Tipperary are going to win this game. Because Cork have not played against this Tipperary team. Cork have played against a lot of this Tipperary team. They haven't played against Rhys Shelley in goals, and I think he's been transformative since he went in there. It's not going to be a case of puckouts hanging in the air for Rob Downey to attack. This lad is going to arrow them everywhere. He is going to put it through an eye of a needle. Andrew Ormond has never started against Cork, and he's in the Player of the Year conversation. Connor Stapleton didn't play in the Munster games. He came back and he was a dynamo the last day. It's a really, really different Tipperary team. And obviously that bench that Tipperary, and I know Cork have a brilliant bench, don't get me wrong, but Noel McGrath coming in, Oisin O'Donoghue coming in, then you have the options of Alan Tynan coming in, and he's been really, really effective off the bench. All year, what difference is there between the Cork team last year versus this year? Maybe Diarmuid Healy is probably the only one who's broken in. And I watched back all the Cork Tip matches that took place this year, and I was looking at it, and all the time it was Cork have their team. They're trying to see if they can find one or two to come in. And maybe they've found that in Healy. I'm not sure if Harnedy had stayed fit the whole year, maybe he would have stayed in. But Tipperary have actually tried to build half a team all year. They've been searching for their team, and it's only now that Tipperary finally have their team. Tip have played against that Cork team loads of times. Cork have never played against this team. And that's why I'm very, very confident that people still have in their head Cork will beat Tip because they keep doing it. But they've never played this Tipperary team. So that's why Tip are going to come out on top for him.
Is there a bit of 2010 of this, where they've not fallen on their best team, but where things have happened and all of a sudden they've ended up with this team now? Paddy ended up, where did Paddy end up? Wing back in 2010 as a result. And
after being tried out centre forward in a challenge.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Do you think they've fallen on the best mix now? As you say, Downey hasn't faced Armand before, not at senior level anyway. There's a lot of new matchups they haven't faced. As you say, it's a good point. They haven't faced Rhys Shelley, who's so ballsy in the goals as well. He will if it's even half on or a quarter on, he will go for it. And you're obviously taking a lot of optimism in that kind of fresh angle, I suppose.
Yeah, if you look at the matchups, I actually agree with Pat basically on the matchups. Michael Breen will definitely go on Brian Hayes. He had a brilliant game on him in the Munster Championship. Doyle cleaned out Alan Connolly in one of the Munster games earlier this year, and I think Alan Connolly is class. And I know that it doesn't necessarily follow that it will repeat the pattern in this final. That Cork full forward line could go to town. But I think Pat's on the money with those matchups. But you look at, and there's one or two matchups, if ball goes in, that you'd be like, Tipperary are going to be in a bit of bother. But at the other side, does Rob Downey really want someone of the size profile of Andrew Ormond turning and going at him the same way that David Reedy did in the game earlier this year? It's not the type of matchup that you're going to enjoy as somebody who's 6'5" or whatever he might be. And I think Downey's absolutely class. Also, Owen Downey, I'm not sure if he's a natural fullback, and he's had bother against both Jason Ford and John McGrath earlier this year. Now, Darren McCarthy had a great game in the first half of the league game, I think, on Limerick, but then really, really struggled against Niall O'Leary in the second half and against Sean O'Donoghue, I think, in the other game at the league final. So there are some matchups that work for Tipp and some that work for Cork on both sides of the pitch. But I think this is a pretty close game. And if it's a tight physical game, I think Tipperary have a lot of players there who don't mind leaving a little bit on a lad if they get half a chance. And if it turns into that sort of game.
You left the physical down in the park here against Cork in the second match in the Munster Championship. Well, and I think you learned an awful lot that day. If we stopped fighting and physical and all that aspect of it and started playing hurling, then we'd come out of this better. And I think that's what Tipperary learned an awful lot. Let's play hurling the way Tipperary always played hurling.
Okay, but John, like the flip side, I ran into a couple of lads from Inishgara just before on the semi-final weekend, and I said, well, I mean, what you just said there, like a Cork player dived on the ground pretending he got hit in the pills when he got a shot into the chest. So, I mean, that's deception too. That's diving onto the ground pretending that you got
part of the game.
Okay, John, that's
but I mean, not part
that's
of my
a
game.
answer, John. Now you normally, John, now you'd front up to that, but that happened. A player went down pretending he got a shot in the pills when he got it in the chest.
We're talking about Sunday. No, we're not talking about previous matches.
Hey, you were talking about the
yeah.
I'd be terrified if I was Cork. I'd be terrified if I was Cork. Because the pressure, no, not of Tipperary, but of the pressure, and Pat mentioned it, the pressure is insane, 20 years of, and like if it comes down to the last 5 minutes and you've got Noel McGrath and Oisin O'Donoghue coming off the bench and whoever else, and you're nearly thinking, Christ now, this is a real tight game.
Conor Lehane and Shane Kingston come off the bench for Cork. What are you going to do?
Well, I'm just saying, if it gets to the last 5 minutes, a lot of those Cork players, all they know is losing tight games. And I remember, John, you made this point in a podcast before that ever since the strikes, Cork were losing tight games. They've changed that, to be fair, in the last couple of years.
Yeah, but we've all
the pressure of 20 years.
Yeah, we've all lost tight games. Look, I know what it's like to lose a tight game, and we have, right? But I think there's a maturity coming to these players, and I've always said about Connolly Barrett and Brian Hayes, Dalton has matured. They have matured, Michael. Do you know what I mean? And I'd say I can't see the hype down here. Does everyone outside of Cork is creating the hype that Cork are under pressure and all this? And you know what I mean?
What do you reckon, Pat?
Oh God, that was a whirlwind there. I don't.
Go back to San Francisco, Pat.
That was unreal. Look, it's going to be some game. It really is. I really hope it is. We've been blessed in the last 10, 15 years without Ireland finals just being incredible games. And when you think of some of the best goals, when I think of some of the best goals I've ever seen in my whole life, an awful lot of them seem to come in Ireland finals. Going back to last year, going back to, we could name out so many years, you know what I mean? Richie Hogan's against Tipperary back in, was it 40? You know, we could go through loads of them, you know what I mean? You know,
12, off Shane's brother, actually.
It was 11, actually. It was 2011.
11, sorry. Yeah. We won't bring up 2012.
You know, Joe Canning in 2012, I remember I was above in the upper tier behind that goals when he bust through it felt like he bust through the whole Kilkenny team, and I thought, God, we were going to win it. And all these, so I just hope, obviously it's different for the two boys there, you know, they're stuck in both camps. I'm a neutral, so I just want an unbelievable, I'd love a draw on Sunday, you know, and we go to a replay and another game a week after or something like that. So I hope it's an incredible game. I think it's set up to be an incredible game. I think Cork will play really well. One thing about Cork is they're scoring machines. Like, you just feel like Cork are going to score like 226 no matter what. You know, so Tipp really have to, in terms of going forward, Tipp really have to turn up. You know, I know we've talked an awful lot about defensively, how they're going to set up and this and that, but you can only hold this Cork team to so much. Like, I honestly feel that this Cork team are going to hit 30 points even if Tipp play really, really well, you know. So Tipp are going to need goals. They're going to need an awful lot of scores. They're going to need how they played against Clare this year when they scored 4 goals, busting through the middle. You know, and the goals against Kilkenny, they got fantastic goals. They were a bit different. They were a bit messy, if you know what I mean, which it's great to get them ones too, but they need the real, like Liam Cahill's teams, if you watch them under 21 and stuff, was incredible hard running from midfield, half forward. Like John McGrath's goal this year against Limerick, where they started from the half back line and ran hard running through the middle. That's what Tipp need to do to have a chance to catch this Cork team on the scoreboard. And in fairness to them, they look like they're set up to really do that and give it a real chance. But it will be really hard to stop this Cork team. They're just scoring machines and they're playing so well. Brian Hayes is the best player in the country this year. You know, he's a goal machine, whether he scores it or whether he creates it.
The amount of goals he's had his hands on between scoring and assisting, lads, is a joke. Like,
it's incredible. He's fantastic there.
Just on that, Shane, real quick. Surely you will at least admit that a lot of things have to go right for you. We're talking about these matchups, and it's grand saying, "Oh, he'll mark him" or whatever. There's a hell of a lot will have to go right to even win 3 out of those matchups in your backs.
Well, I mean, this is part of it again, Vernie. The whole year you've been underestimating Tipperary when they've been on the road. I told you midway through Munster, Tipperary would qualify. I told you Cork would win Munster.
You told me after the league that Tipp were goose and X and Y should not be playing county again, but that's another thing.
Yeah, but like as they improved and changed the starting team and put Rhys Shelley in there and things like that, I did say to you, Tipp are on the way, and I told you they qualify out of Munster, and then. Even leading into the Waterford game, you were like, "Oh, Waterford have too much athleticism," and I told you that gap is gone. And Tipp went and out and hurled the ears off them, and were just as athletic as them. And even against Kilkenny, you were saying Cats by 3. And then when I sent you a flurry of texts in the hours after the match from Ryan's on Camden Street, Pat, you'll know the spot, you'll know it very well, singing and jeering and
San Francisco again, yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't a peep out of Vernie then, and Vernie, there won't be a peep from you on Sunday night.
I have to say, you give Tipp supporters a bad name because you're absolutely unbearable when you win. Oh my God, like you literally, I'd literally go over to San Fran with Pat if Tipperary win the All-Ireland.
With some crack. I have to say,
you won't have to worry about that, Michael.
Go on, Myler boy.
You won't have to worry about that. And what Stapleton was saying there a couple of times there about Tipp bringing in new players and all this. Well, Jesus, what have Limerick done over the last 6 years? They won 4 All-Irelands with the same team, more or less. And they haven't freshened it up or anything like that. Kyle Hayes was there. Gerard Hegarty was there. You had the same goalie, same 6 backs, same 6 forwards, and they've rarely changed anything at all. Cork have a consistent team over the last couple of years, and they're improving, Shane. They're improving.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
Cork have lost 2 finals too with the majority of them players. You could this is what Shane will throw at you, John. I'm just giving you a heads up,
Yeah.
You can throw what you like at me. You can throw what you like, Stapleton, but it doesn't really matter. We've all lost. Christ, Pat Ryan has lost, and you've lost, and I've lost. We've all lost in finals. It's what you learn out of it and what you do the next time you go out. And Cork have got to learn from losing to Clare last year. We were 6 points up or 8 points up. Why did we lose that? Because we allowed, I don't know who it was, Shane O'Donnell to come through and run through us, where if we'd have cut him down or taken a yellow card or whatever, that's what should have happened. And I think there's more of a resolve there in Cork this year. And they've learned an awful lot from last year. And put that in place on Sunday now, and that's it. Where you're saying then about, Cork haven't faced the goalie, Shelley. They haven't faced a few more players. Those guys haven't played in an All-Ireland final either. And those guys have got to be able to manage, between now and Sunday at 3:30 when the ball is thrown in. And when it comes to 3:30 Sunday, they've got to cross the white line and play. Darren McCarthy, those, Armand, O'Donoghue and those. You've got to play now. The Cork have been there in the last year. Yes, they've lost. But you learn more sometimes from losing than you do from winning.
Half this Tipp team have won All-Ireland finals, and then you have more lads who have captained Tipp to under 20 All-Irelands. This Tipperary team is, fair enough, a few bad seasons, but they're used to winning in Croke Park when they've been there.
In what?
In All-Irelands. Ronan Maher, John McGrath. Like, there's about 6 or 7 lads who have won All-Ireland on the field of play, and Cork have none of that.
There's a decent scrawl going for their third, between Mikey Breen, Ronan Maher, John McGrath, Noel McGrath. maybe one more. Jake Morris has one from 19 as well.
Yeah,
That's someone
Willie Connors.
I wanted to talk about, lads, as well. I want to talk about Jake Morris. Pat, like, I think he's 22 points from playing so far in the championship. To me, he's probably Tipp's most important player. I think the biggest thing that happened in the semi-final, he wasn't in the game at all. A line ball kind of hopped into his hand. He got a score. He switched wings. He went to town on the other wing and had so much influence in the play. Will Cork go after him? Who's the most likely? Kieran Joyce probably track Jake Morris. Pat, do you reckon?
Yeah, in terms of track Jake Morris, he'll probably be at 10. So, like, with the games I've seen mostly with Cork this year, against Limerick, they did, the half backline track, like Kieran Joyce picked up Keane Lynch, you know what I mean? So, if they're going to that again and go most important player, I would agree with you 100%. I'd be putting Kieran Joyce on him. I think Jake Morris this year, I think Brian Hayes has been the best hurler in Ireland. I think Jake Morris has been the second best hurler of the year. And I think probably Mossy Keown has been the third best hurler in Ireland. Jake Morris has been unbelievable. As John said, sometimes when teams lose, it's the hard days. And I was below at Cork and Tipp this year when Cork, hammered Tipp. Jake Morris was brilliant at it. And it's so hard to be brilliant. He got 3 points from play. To play well, a man down when Cork are flying, and I know they lost.
Pat, quick one. There was a point he got that was defied all logic.
Yeah, he's just playing exceptionally well. And you know what? He's scoring points for the pace that they've added with himself and Norman in the half forward. Because obviously Jake played so much in full forward line, but he's been getting very good now, getting white flags. I could see, Jake Morris, maybe first goal scorer of the weekend, could be good. He's due a goal, he's such a natural goal scorer. He's such a good finisher. He's actually been creating goals this year from just running through the middle, whereas usually he was the finisher inside. But if Tipp are going to rely an awful lot on him, you need your main men to step up on Ireland final days. Tipp need Jake Morris as much as he's done. Like, he's got him to the final as with everyone else because he's been the main man. But they need him now on Sunday. They need him. Basically, I think when you really good players, all you need is them to be in possession. How do we get him the ball? You know what I mean? How can we? You tell Brian O'Meara, look, Brian, whatever you do, just fucking break the line. You're at 7. When you break the line and the overlap will be on for Jake. We have to get Jake on as much ball as we can. We can't go 20 minutes with Jake Morris not getting the ball on Sunday. So he's going to be absolutely huge. And then the flip side, then, like that, if you were to, you'd say, how can we keep the ball out of Brian Hayes' hand? Which seems to be very, very hard to do, because if anything, to me, like, he's the man for Cork now. Cork can score all over the forward. But if you could keep the ball away from Brian Hayes, you'll be one hand out of the game. Can we keep maybe someone inside? And John McGrath is an exception. John McGrath, I'm delighted. The word on John McGrath as well. I played colleges hurling with John McGrath. I loved playing with him. Now, John might want to get rid of college hurling as well, because it's not club hurling and it's fellas in college as well. So I don't know if John is going to get rid of college hurling as well. But
Hold on, Pat. I've been involved in Fitzgibbon here for the last 30 years in MTU. I know what college is hurling.
That's a session, John.
What?
That's a session, is it?
Yeah, it is a session. I tell you now, let me finish now here, right? You go here in MTU, Jackie, Tyrrell, Big Pat, Pat O'Neill, Van Larkin, they were all inter-county players. Like, the fellas that at the moment, a lot of them that are playing Fitzgibbon, they're not inter-county players. They're playing under 20 hurling. That's all they're playing. There's a massive difference between 25 years ago Fitzgibbon players and 25 years ago now.
Yeah, even when I was looking, I was on an exceptional Fitzgibbon team. John McGrath, Jason Ford, Tony Kelly, Tom Morris. That was just names. Even in first year college, I played with John and myself, John and Stephen Bennett was the full forward line. But John was. You're
probably on sessions down in Reardon's here in Cork in the wash. That's what you were at. Yeah, and the hurlers out the road.
Down in Clems.
Yeah.
To see John back well, like I said, just a fantastic hurler. So if they're the kind of them two forwards are probably going to be the main men. If Tipp are to be successful, Jake and John will be putting up big scores.
2 comments I have to bring up there. One was at the start from Good and Ignorant. He said he was nearly considering supporting Tipp on Sunday, but he wanted to hear what Stapleton had to say first. P-Well74 said, I was going to support Tipp, and then I heard Stapleton. Just to me a bit about your forwards. They've all clicked at different stages. Like Arnold was brilliant the last day without scoring. He just was a dog for work. Morris got on some great ball when they needed to. McGrath got the goal when they needed. Different lads are chipping in. I wonder, is there a big one in Darren McCarthy? When you look at, I'm thinking about John McGrath even in 19 getting sent off in the All-Ireland semi-final. He would have had his hands in his head, delivered a goal in the final, was good in the final. I wonder, could McCarthy have a big one and kind of maybe repay his teammates from the semi-final?
Yeah, I mean, look, he has to get that chopping out of his game. He does do that all the time, and it was no, like, people in Tipp were fairly realistic. You had to get 2 yellow cards for that, but luckily Tipp aren't the sort of team that are going to collapse just because they got down to 14 men, which I've kind of reminded you over the years, Vernie. A team doesn't need to collapse at that stage, but he has to get it out of his game. But if you go through the underscoring, and McCarthy still chips in massively, but those were the 2 lads who were shooting the lights out. And even with the seniors this year, I mean, I don't have the figures off the top of my head, maybe you know them, but I don't think he's I think he's scored 1-5 from play in the entire championship.
Yeah.
But he's doing other stuff, and the Waterford game in particular, the way he kept coming out in front around the D and winning ball, either winning frees or popping it off to lads. He's got a very important role there, and obviously his work rate too. Well, probably remember that great block he had when he chased Adam English out to the middle of the field and turned him over. Stuff. So he's adding an awful lot in that way. I don't know, is he going to shoot the lights out or anything like that today? And he just seems like a nerveless player. And that point he scored off his left-hand side underneath the Hogan stand. I mean, the sound out of it was just unbelievable. And I had a beautiful view. I was probably 10 rows behind Liam Cahill, so I had a perfect view of everything that was going on at that point, and it was absolutely sensational. So I'm very happy with what Tipp have in the forward line. Don't have massive pace on the inside, but an awful lot of trickery. And they keep kind of drifting in and drifting out. And what I love about, if you put a ball in the mixer and it breaks, you've always got Ormond and Jake Morris coming at absolute pace. And because the lads inside often come out, it will leave that gap in the middle. So I think Tipperary have opportunities there. I absolutely understand that Cork could score 4 goals. And I think Tipp nearly have to mentally brace themselves for the fact that Cork could score 4 here. But just like in the semi-final, just like in it, to keep chipping away, like we all know that 10 points isn't what it used to be in hurling. But I think another thing is Liam Gordon has to be very, very strong in this game. And in a way, get out of the way of this game and just let it go. And I want Tipp to be massively physical in this game. And I want that to be rewarded, to be honest with you. Don't know if that totally answers your question.
Why remarkably physical? Why?
Because I think I think it would suit Tipperary to have a really physical game, because I think Owen Connolly's a brute. I mean this in a good way. Michael Breen's a brute. Brian O'Mara's putting in hits left, right and centre all year. Ronan Maher likes it physical. Willie Connors likes to get stuck in. Conor Stapleton is an absolute dynamo. I just think there's a lot of players on the Tipperary team that are very physical, and if it turns into just a whistle happy game, players go through slightest little tugs, slightest
I'd be
little
surprised
whatever,
if it did. It's not really Gordon's approach, to be fair.
So my point is, I think a free flowing open game will suit Cork more, because clearly they have more pace, whereas a more physical game, a more bruising game, I think would suit Tipperary.
Okay.
That would be my time. And that to answer your question, John, that's why.
Pat, I know you've been very good with your time, Pat, so I'm going to let you go on this one. Do conditions have much of a bearing on things? It's been teeming rain here for the last couple of days. Shane, surely you're smiling a small bit with that.
It's not too bad here in Dublin, actually.
Well, it's been raining the last couple. It's been raining like for at least an hour or two every day for the last 3 or 4 days. It's expected to rain for the next 4 days. There's a little tinge of 2010 about it. But Pat, can you get your prediction before you go?
Yeah, and it is giving rain for Sunday, I think, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
What's the way for Sunday? So look, it's the same for both teams, really. So I couldn't see that having a major factor. Prediction for Sunday? Oh God, my internet is cutting out here. But look, I think I'm hoping for a great game. I think it will be a great game. I'm going to go just with Cork by 4 points.
Cork by 4. How many? What? Give me a sample kind of scoreline there.
I'm going to go Cork 226, Tipp 125.
And John will be happy.
He'd be singing. He'd be singing Friday evening.
And you'll be down in Bursley on Monday, no doubt, then as well yourself.
I'm in your country on Monday morning, Pat, about 8 o'clock in the day, Manor playing golf. So
Jeez. You mustn't be too bad.
What?
You mustn't be too bad to attend there.
No.
You had Limerick booked for the Monday, the morning of All Ireland. You must have fancied it at the start of the year. I'll see you.
Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
Good luck.
Yeah. Boys, we just do a little bit, a quick jousting between the two of you. John, what's the...
I think the confidence that they've got out of the matches that they've played Tipp in over, the last 3 months, and that we need to continue on that, and we need to keep working on that, and the confidence that, that Dublin put up really no game. But I think the huge penalty shootout, staying in the game, I think that match really emphasised the importance of staying in the game, and where Galan had the chance in the last few minutes for a free, the corner forward had the chance to put the ball over the bar, they didn't. We got a bit of luck from Nicky Quaid putting the ball for 65 to level the game in normal time. So the small bit of luck, there's small little breaks going for them, and I think they'll have learned from that, and the confidence then, of going back to Croke Park to right the wrong of last year. And I think that will be emphasised, after the Dublin game. Look, we got this wrong this time last year. We need to right the wrong. And I think that's what's there in the background. Nice and quiet. There's no, if you look at the PR, I suppose, I see Conor Lahan doing a piece. Conor will be a sub. And Cork haven't put out players there to make big statements over the last 3 or 4 days in the newspapers.
Oh, they're coming, Pat. Don't worry. They're coming over the next couple of days. Don't worry.
Yeah, well, they're just keeping the low profile. This is Wednesday morning here, so Tipp will be out there, I suppose, talking to the press and things like that.
Because we're not ready.
No, all the Cork lads have spoken. It's kind of drip fed as the week goes on, as it is a Tipp. Shane, hand on heart, I know what you're saying about the new players, but there surely is a bit of worry about some scarring that Cork do not particularly match up well for you. Let's call it.
No, you're wrong. But I'll be honest with you. Of course, I know Cork can win this game, and yeah, so there's no problem there. And if Tipperary lose this game, there'll be no one in Tipp saying, you're a disgrace or anything like that. There's no massive pressure on Tipp. But I think most people in Tipp look at it and think, this is a 50-50 game, and the bookies can give 5 points to Cork all they want. But the bookies have been wrong about a lot of things. And people have consistently been wrong about this team all year. Now, I was the first to, give out about Tipp the last maybe 4 or 5 years, and I think rightly so. Sometimes not bringing in enough of the young players, a load of different issues tactically and all this kind of stuff. But absolutely now, when credit is due, I'm happy to hand it out. And I do think there's going to be scar tissue for Cork if this game is tight in the last 10 minutes. And I look at that half hour.
It would be absolutely fascinating if you can bring him down the stretch.
What makes you think we won't? What makes you think Tipp won't bring Cork down the stretch? This is going to be a tight game.
What would make me think the last 4 out of the last 5 times they've met would make me think that they're not going to bring
them down the
stretch? There's, of course, you're telling me there's no relevance whatsoever.
There's between Cork Tipp, Cork Limerick, Cork Clare, Cork Waterford, Munster championship teams, the 5 teams in Munster, right? There's very little on any given day. Finals have a life of their own. Yeah, Tipp can, even the match could start on Sunday with Tipp getting 2 goals early on, be 6 or 8 points up, and Cork saying, well, what are we going to do now? So, there's a whole history, 100 years of history between Cork and Tipperary over the years and how things have developed. So the game on Sunday has a life of its own. It's how both counties adapt and change accordingly. The Cork will have to adapt to certain things. Tipp will have to adapt to certain things. And both teams will want
John,
to
can I ask you a question? You were manager in 2017. You just taken over from Kingston, had you, at that
18, point? 18, 19.
Okay. But you were involved in 17, weren't you? Okay, so do you remember in 2016, Tipp won the All-Ireland and pretty much battered everybody the whole year.
Yeah.
and including Cork, after, am I right in saying Tipp went down? Oh no, that was against Limerick. But Cork definitely had a bad beating against Tipperary. I think Megan was the sweeper. But then, and the next year, then Tipper going out thinking, look, we're going to batter this Cork. And Bernie, this is what I'm talking about. The last game with Tipp Cork, it never matters.
It's irrelevant.
It's just, it's absolutely irrelevant what you're talking about with the past. It's a different Tipperary team, just like it was a different Cork team in 17. And they stitched us up in our own pitch. And Tipp are going to win this game by a puck of a ball. Bit of sort of like bias, obviously, but I think Tipp will win.
I think when the last game and the last game before that and the last game before that and the last game before that all have a similar pattern, I think they do matter. Well, one thing I'll ask the two of you here, Shane, I'll go to you first. Would this be Tipp's sweetest All Ireland?
No, well, do you know what? Because the last 25 years have been so much about Kilkenny. Beating them is the sweet one in recent times. But traditionally, like, I grew up on getting hammered by Cork, so that was very tough, and a bit of Galway as well. No, because I've no real enmity towards Cork. I'd say maybe just because not too many of my friends are from Cork.
I don't know. Like, I
have a lot of close friends from Kilkenny. So
should have gone to San Francisco with Ryan.
I'm recalling. These are not conversations I'm recalling you having with me off the record. But listen, whatever you want to put on the record, you can.
What? You should have you should have spent more time in San Francisco and Boston playing with the Cork boys out there, you know.
Yeah, I'm still not over losing that New York County final in 2010 though. That was a tough one against Offaly, New York.
Yeah, we have a great history. John, just on that, it's very novel in that respect as well. Tipp playing Cork in the first ever All Ireland final meeting. For you to end the 20-year famine by beating your closest and nearest and dearest rivals would be a sweet one.
I think, and it would be fitting for 20 years. You know, I mean, the first time ever Cork and Tipp in an All Ireland final, and it would be fitting for Cork to get the monkey off their back, really, in terms of not winning in 20 years, which I think they will on Sunday, because there's an air of confidence, not arrogance. There's an air of confidence about them, and no matter what you put in front of them, I don't think it will face them. It's a 50-50 game between two traditionally strong counties. They've met each other at under 15, under 16, minor, under 21, senior. All of these guys, like, as you said, Darren McCarthy, Armand, Aldo, Jake Morris, they've met all these Cork players at third level as well, and Fitzgibbon. They all know each other inside out, and they all know on any given day, Tipp can perform and Cork can perform. So it's a 50-50 game which Cork will shade.
Bernie, who's going to win?
Oh, I think Cork will win. I think Cork will win, but I'll come back to that in 1 second. I just want to chat to you briefly, John, about Hoggie, and obviously his obsession. I wouldn't say obsession with winning All Ireland. It's probably more of a hurling obsession. But like, just talk to me a little bit about him and like.
I think he's been, for the last 15 years, I think he has been a great servant of Cork hurling. You know, that he has done an awful lot for Cork hurling, and he's done an awful lot for the senior hurling team, and, you know, carrying them at the best of times. You know, when I was involved in 18, 19, you look around and you turn, you know, Hoggie, do this, do that, the other thing. They don't rely on Hoggie now compared to what it was 5 or 6 years ago. But look, and I said this to Hoggie, and I said it to Nash as well. Time runs out, lads, and you need to win an All Ireland. You need to win an All Ireland medal to copper fasten your place in history. Your place in Cork hurling history, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to do it for yourself first. You got to do it for the team. Then you got to do it for Cork, and that's important. But look, Hoggie has served his time, but he needs a win to get a medal to really copper fasten his place as one of the best Cork forwards of all time. That's basically it.
Shane, give me your prediction. Give me a score. Give me a scoreline.
4-18 to 3-19 to Tipperary, so a 2-point win.
Oh, lovely. A 7-goal thriller. Jeez, I take my hand off for it. Bar the result, obviously. John, go on.
look, Cork will win by a couple of points. Don't mind what score it is. You might be surprised by Cork going shooting for points on Sunday. You know what I mean? If the weather is bad, and it's wet, the number of points will come down. So it might be low scoring in terms of where the scoring is at the moment. But Cork will win by a couple of points, I think, and finish this 20 years, and I think build on the resources which they have here now in terms of the youth.
I'm looking forward to it. Cork will cover the spread, and they'll end the 20-year famine.
The spread is 5 points.
Yeah, it was 4. I thought 4 was generous, but honest with you, and I wrote as much in the paper the other day. 5 is still it's generous to the punter back in Cork, -5.
God almighty. So you think Cork will win by 6 points plus?
If I was to give a number, I think they'll win by 7. Yeah.
How many times do Tipp have to pull your pants down this year before you wise up? Huh?
It's like when I kept backing against Bursley. It'll eventually be right at the end of the day, and it was right at the final stage. I think they'll open up at different stages. I hope I'm wrong, because I hope it's down the stretch, but I think Cork will open up. And I don't think he'll be able to handle him. And I think too many things need to go right for you. I still see Brian Hayes hitting the net or having a contribution. I see him having contributions in 2 goals minimum. I think he'll be caught a small bit for legs at the other end. I think he'll go long, and because I was surprised you did against Kilkenny, and he persisted to do it. And I was like, what's going on here? And he eventually got fruits from it. He could get a bit of fruit from that on Sunday. I don't think he'll get enough. I just see them something like 326 to 122, something like that. I may have been 122. I'm probably too generous there.
That's 10 points.
Yeah, it might be.
Tiny little beating there, Bernie. Yeah.
It might be far off that. Listen, the Premier Review boys can put out their commentary thing after mentioning me and everyone else that wrote Tipperary off as Tipperary win.
Yeah, but Bernie, are you ignoring the fact that Willie Connors is minding the house now, or that someone will leave their man and go back and cover the square? You see Craig Morgan doing it in most games. There's this idea in your head now that Tipp are going to leave the back line wide open. There's a reason that Jordan Malloy scored 5 points from play, or whatever it was, the last day. It's because at times Tipperary midfielders or half forwards are dropping back and allowing teams to have someone extra in the middle. Take your point, you're not getting the goal. And again, I think this comes back to it. People are not looking at what Tipperary are actually doing now, and they're still talking about the Tipp team that got hammered last year and the early stages of this year. It's a different team.
No, I don't think last year shouldn't have any bearing on it really at all. It shouldn't. It's about this year, and they are a completely different team, and they're completely different personnel. There's no point in saying any different. I think Cork are going to end the famine, and I think they're going to end it emphatically enough. But I won't believe it until I see it.
Men, your phone is going to light up now on Sunday evening, and you better start replying.
Do you know the worst thing about it is, John, even if Tipp are up after 5 minutes, I'll have a message. If Tipp are up after 10 minutes, I'll have a message. He never waits or anything like that. He just sees the opportunity and he goes for it in fairness to him. Boys, enjoy the game. Someone's not going to be happy. I have a feeling it's going to be Shane, but we'll see come 5:10 on Monday. Gents, thanks a million for joining us.
And before you go, Michael, the point, and Pat has made this as well, and Shane, like I said, look, it's the middle of July, and it's a fantastic game we're looking forward to on Sunday, and we're probably, the 2 semi-finals could have been better in a way, but we've had some incredible games over the last few years. And I think it's time to somebody to put up and say, we want more of these games as distinct from fewer of these games. The hurling is finished in the middle of July, and it's not right. It's definitely not right. And we're not, as what before Shane came in there, Pat was making the point about promoting, the games and the Kilmacud Sevens, having the Masters, having the minor final on before the senior final. I think there should be a whole week of celebration of the game of hurling, as distinct from, just one game at 3:30 on Sunday, then it's over, it's forgotten about, you go home, and you will probably ring me this time next year, are you free on Monday morning for a conversation or whatever? It's not enough, I think, basically, and I'm gone too old now, but I know that, you're a year younger than what I am, but it's fascinating, the game of hurling, how good it is compared to my time, and, even the way the game has developed over the last 10 years. Every Cork game this year has been a sellout. all the games in the park, the league final, the two Munster championships, the Dublin match last Sunday, and the All Ireland final. And there's 82,500 at all the matches. I would tell you, if you put another 10 games on, Cork would fill out the stadium again. And I think, it's time for a rational, level-headed conversation in terms of that. We want more of these games, and we want to reward people. You want to reward people like the McGraths and that in Tipperary, like Hoggie, and to show people how good the game of hurling is, and how it benefits society as well.
We should be promoting it within an end of our lives, like, do you know what I mean? It should be wall to wall everywhere this week. There should be stuff on in Dublin Friday, Saturday. There should be things that it's almost like a festival that you could jump into this or jump into that. There should be loads of things going on. But listen, that's for another day. Gents, Shane, enjoy your round of golf, and John, no doubt you'll be in Cove Golf Club in the next half an hour as well. So enjoy, man.
Thanks, lads.
I'd see you in the gear on Monday, Shane. All right,
Good luck. Good luck, lads. Good luck. Great to have all the lads on board there. Some great insights. Hopefully it'll be a belter of a game. Hoping it goes right down the stretch. And Tipp really posed Cork those really, really difficult questions. And let's see if they answer them. We're going to just briefly look back on the football semi-finals last weekend. And I have one happy Kerry man win. Adam, how are you getting on? You have the hat down and all ready to go. You're trying to keep a low profile like ahead of Sunday week.
Yeah, I'm in Jack O'Connor mode now. I've got the hat on, and you won't get anything out of me for the next couple of weeks.
Johnny Tightlips. In fairness, Adam, I asked questions here on last week's show of Kerry, and they fairly answered them. Like that was comprehensive enough in the second half when the game looked like it was turned into a real contest. Kerry put on the afterburners, obviously with David Clifford and Joe O'Connor leading the way.
Yeah, no, it was impressive enough, I thought, to be honest. I thought it was a mature performance by them. I thought it was composed enough. Started quite poorly, with Tyrone coming out of the blocks a lot faster, which you always expect from Tyrone. You expect them when they play Kerry, they're going to try to unsettle you. They're going to try and punch you in the mouth in the first 5 minutes and see how you respond. And for about, I think it was 12 minutes that they were on top, they were 4-1 up, and maybe a little bit concerned, but no, I thought that was a game in the past where I've seen Kerry start to panic a little bit, start to force it, but there was none of that. I thought they kind of managed it very well. There was no bad decisions. They weren't running down blind alleys. They were keeping the ball away from dangerous areas. And as you said, once the kind of, not too dissimilar to the Armagh game, we spoke last week about, maybe they won't be able to do 14 in a row. I think it was 9 in a row for that period in the second half. Tyrone didn't score for about 20 minutes. That was more than good enough to get the job done. They were up 10 by that stage, and a couple of for an individual level, like Clifford was. I mean, like you don't know what to say about him at this stage. Some of the scores he got, the 2-pointer in the first half was just like the ball was fed into him, and he no right to catch the ball even on the hop in the first place. To hop up, then defend off Hampsey, who's a great defender, and scored a 2-pointer. Like, it's just at times like that, he just seems like there's no one really that can pin him down. And like, obviously he's another game to go, but he's just in phenomenal form. He's guaranteed now to be the top scorer in the championship this year in football. And look, obviously from our point of view, we're hoping that he's one more big game in him.
The evasiveness for the goal as well, and just to be able to think that quickly and that clearly, and like he's probably the best keeper in the country in front of him, and he's able to just make sure that he's completely outstretched and he still has an open area to kick it into, like, which is beautiful to watch. Yeah,
like the backdoor cut, like he does it so often, and I've seen people criticize Hampsey for getting too tight to him, but sure, you're damned if you're doing, you're damned if you're not. Like, if he steps off in a yard, then Clifford's just going to come on the loop, or he's going to pop over the point too easy or whatever. And I know you don't want to give away goals, but even like, as you said, when Breen fed the ball through, the presence of mind, like Morgan came out like a train, like he always does. He's brilliant in 1v1 situations, and he thwarted Kerry on more than one occasion in those kind of scenarios. But Clifford just had the composure. There's a great photo actually of when he takes it, then we have the two Tyrone defenders run into each other and they're facing against each other, and Clifford's going around, So yeah, look, like as I said, he is playing the football of his life, which is a big statement, to say about David Clifford, but he is at the moment. So as I said, Donegal are going to have serious plans for him, I'm sure. But look, it's just a joy to watch. I know I'm not neutral at all when it comes to watching Clifford, But I think everyone would agree that when he's in full flight, it's just it's one of the best sides in the GA.
He's so free in himself, and he looks like he's enjoying it so much. I don't think you could say that maybe last year and other years. I love to see lads celebrating, whether it's an assist or whether it's a score or whatever it is. And he looks like he's loving it. He looks like he had a bit of a mental break, probably a bit of a physical break as well. It's mad to say it, like when you think of some of the form from a couple of years ago, but it looks like the penny has dropped even further now, and he found a real kind of sweet spot. And that's a dangerous thing for Donegal. Just from a Donegal point of view, that was really comprehensive and polished. Some people questioning their route to this stage. Division 2 side in Louth, obviously Leinster champions, a Division 2 side in Monaghan, going to be Division 1 side next year, and a Division 2 side in Meath. But that was comprehensive enough the other day. And the dangerous thing, I think, we won't get talking about the final too much, but they have so many scorers. Like, they obviously have Murphy, they have McBrearty coming in, they have Gallen, they have Shane O'Donnell, they have Conor O'Donnell, who was brilliant the other day, they have Langan, Thompson. You know, it's death by 1,000 cuts. Like, as long as 4 or 5 of those lads are contributing handsomely enough, they're in with a chance of winning any game. And it's probably the final that the year deserves in a way. I know some people would nearly say the way Donegal play, particularly hand pass based, that it goes against the new rules or whatever, whereas Kerry are a kicking team. But it's set up perfectly. It's the final most people wanted, I would say, just even from the McGuinness point of view as well. And his last game in 14 was beaten by Kerry when they were favourites. I think they were favourites going into that game. I'm fairly sure they were, or maybe they were ish anyway. And it looks like they're going to be favourites going into this game as well.
Yeah, no, it is fascinating. The contrasting styles is going to be really, really interesting. Like I've spoken about Donegal already this year, and maybe say that they're not my favourite team to watch with the new rules because of the way that they move the ball or whatever. But you can't deny that it's unbelievably efficient. Like against Meath the other day, I thought Meath were a bit overawed. Like I said last week, I was expecting a lot more from Meath. I think maybe they did reach their limit, I think, and the occasion maybe was a bit too much for them. But it's not rocket science what Donegal are doing either. It's like they're moving the ball through the hand around the arc. They're doing it at pace, and they're just waiting for one moment, one opening. And as you said, it doesn't matter who gets the ball in that opening. They're all capable of putting the ball over the bar. So like it's so efficient, and it is like, Jesus, very worrying from a Kerry point of view, looking at that, and she's wondering who's going to track that guy, who's going to track this guy. You know, there's lots of tough matchups there from Kerry's point of view, I think. But yeah, look, I think that game itself, I thought the signs were ominous enough early on. You saw Meath shooting a lot from distance, and it wasn't clicking for them.
Here's Adam, when a 2-pointer is missed, when it's scored, it's unreal. But if there's 3 or 4 2-pointers missed in a row, my God, does it suck the life out of you.
Yeah, it does, and especially if it drops short. I know that happened to Kerry a couple of times the last day as well, and it's just like, Jesus, it's a real massive turnaround, because once the ball goes up in the air for two, it's like the opposition fans are even going like, oh no, and then when it misses, it's a big boost for them. It's like missing a goal chance almost. So, but yeah, look, I think kind of even though the scores were tight enough in the first half, it wasn't looking good at all for me the way they were moving. And then I think Gallen's goal, which was an unbelievable finish, made it 114 to 10 points in the second half. And from then on, it was an onslaught. I mean, geez, they were walking it in by the end. There was kickouts going over the top, and it was 4v1 and this kind of stuff. So, like, you'd feel for me, but you know what? Like, they had a brilliant season. They're one of the stories of the championship. But like, if they went out in that game and Donegal played maybe a bit poorly and Meath lost by a point, it might have maybe given them a false sense of where they are going into the off season. They might have been thinking to themselves, geez, like and say Donegal might win the All-Ireland. Meath are going to, geez, we only lost them by a point. Like, we're right in the top tier yet. Maybe they're not quite there yet, and maybe it's a bit of a check for them that they can go off now with their clubs and think, right, we have a lot of work to do to get up there, and gives them something to aim for. Like, by all means, they can challenge for Leinster next year and challenge for promotion from Division 2, and see where that takes them. But like, overall, sure, it's an unbelievable season for Meath. You wouldn't, you couldn't but be admired by the work done by Robbie Brennan there and that group of players, because they gave us some entertainment during the course of the season.
Adam, we're going to put the football on ice till next week. It's hurling week. We'll go and enjoy the small ball. Football can have their time come next Tuesday or Wednesday, but it's all hurling this week. I'll chat to you again we'll be back next Thursday at 4 p.m. and we'll be previewing all the football, and we'll have maybe another special guest or two, hopefully from the counties involved as well, and we'll chat to you all then. Thanks a million, Adam. Come on.
Cheers, Bernie.